Hi everyone, hello, and welcome to this first webinar of our new webinar-based online course, which is Shiatsu for the Third Age.
It is. So, I don't know if you were, I think Cliff's got a poll actually. We did a summer school about the Yang Sheng Nourishing Life tradition with a number of different presenters, and Cliff and I did a session on Shiatsu for the elderly.
We did, Shiatsu for the elderly, which was very, very popular.
Yes, and so there was a poll at the end of that said, would you like more of this?
And lots of people said yes.
So that's why
we're here.
We're here, exactly.
Okay, so here we go. Thank you so much for your time coming on this webinar. We've got a nice program for you, hopefully an interesting program of a variety of different things. This is actually the overview of the whole course. So we've got an introduction today, an overview, and then Diana and I are going to do the next session on the 8th. We're going to look at the theory, Chinese medicine theory, the syndromes, points, and practical application. And then we've got our first star guest, the very popular Gabriella Poli, who's going to do her lovely fascia release work. And then we've got Suzanne Yates, another very popular guest, and one of our new energy work team, both of them are part of our team, and she's going to be doing a session on the menopause and the extraordinary vessels. And then we're going to finish off with one of Diana's specialities, which is the virtues, which we think is really, really important, especially as we enter a third age of our life. Our thoughts turn towards spiritual matters, and that's what the virtues are all about. Yeah. Okay, so here we are. There's the 4 presenters, and as I say, all of us are part of the new expanded new energy work team. So this is I guess this is kind of one of the first of a new way of doing things, which is collaborating, getting people in, and working together. Really, really looking forward to it. Okay, so the program for this evening, we're going to do just a short introduction about Shiatsu and the third age, supporting the third age. We have an overview of Chinese medicine theory. We've got a poll for you to find out, to see, so we can pace the future sessions. Quick look at the virtues, Diana. Yeah, just to give you an idea of what they are, and a poll again. And then we thought we'd do some practical. I think you're going to do a meditation on the Shen, aren't you?
Very short meditation on heart, really. Yes.
On the heart.
Shen.
Yeah. Just as a sort of illustration of the virtues and the spiritual aspects. And then I thought we'd do a little bit of practice. I've got a new diagram, very excited about that. I've got a new model to show you, which I've been kind of thinking about. Diana and I have been preparing it. Then we do some practical application. We're going to use some points and techniques, and just show you how you can modify your techniques and stuff. And then we're going to talk about the online course itself. Hope that you're going to continue for the next 4 weeks, and we'll explain that all to you at the end. So hopefully we'll be all right in terms of the time. So here we go. Here's this poll Diana mentioned, which is, did you attend or watch the recording of, indeed, the summer school webinar that we did? So let's just see if you're new to this whole topic or whether you were there in the summer school. We had a very, very good attendance. We had nearly 1,000 people register for that. But look, we've got a lot of new people here. We've got like 70%, it looks like, roughly, who weren't at that one. So we've got a few slides to repeat in a way to kind of catch you up with that. Yeah. So it's just as well, Diana, that we did that.
Yes, and we expanded. I mean, the focus of treating the elderly was elderly.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
And it was looking at from the perspective of the Yang Sheng tradition of nourishing life. So, and this was a quote from the Tao Te Ching that we had at the beginning that we thought was worth reminding, and obviously for people who weren't there,
might be the first time we've seen.
Yeah. So we are born gentle and weak, but at death are stiff and hard. Green plants are tender and filled with sap. At their death they are withered and dry. Therefore the stiff and unbending is the disciple of death, and the gentle and yielding is the disciple of life. And from that we went into in fact I think it's on the next slide.
I say that looks just like an advert for Shiatsu in later life for me.
Exactly.
Because when you think about how our long-term clients are now, who are getting elderly, and the ones that have had regular shiatsu, you can really see a difference.
Yeah,
and they definitely are more tender and full of sap and not so withered.
Yes, exactly. More flexible, and here was another slide from that workshop, and you'll notice flexibility and exercise as well as mind and emotions are considered really important part of improving longevity and quality of life in the elderly.
Yeah, and look at that. The global population of over 60s will double to 22% between 2000 and 2050. So we're going to have a lot more clients are going to be in that third age category. So
yeah, it's basically a quarter of the population.
Yeah, so
pretty nearly.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a quick, just a quick look at the most important aspects of TCM theory. We're going to go into a lot more detail this next week, and we're going to go into more detail in the 5th episode.
Yeah.
We've got probably the most central thing about Chinese medicine theory is the whole idea of the Jing naturally declining through age, and a lot of the actual kind of pathologies that we get or the issues we get are kind of rooted, aren't they, back to that kidney deficiency.
And this again, this was a slide from treating the elderly. Maybe you should just check the chat in case there's anybody shouting questions. So we decided in this series to expand that from beyond a bit earlier.
A bit earlier, yes.
Yes.
How early, we're not sure.
Yes, exactly. What is the third age?
It depends a lot on your opinion, really, doesn't it?
And what you think your middle age, when does that start and finish? But we thought, with reference to the menopause and andropause, that famous one of the gateways of change.
Yeah.
And it's a transition time. And really, so from 50s, early 50s, maybe up to retirement, maybe all that still is the sense of it being in the third age. I don't know.
Yeah.
It is really a matter of opinion,
isn't it? Really,
but we've got, as we saw in that WHO statistic, quarter of our population will soon be over 60.
Yeah, that's it.
And definitely our Jing, our essence, begins to decline naturally as we age. And we start to see these kind of deficiency patterns happening just inevitably.
Yeah.
So we're looking at how to best support our clients through those transitions and to tonify and nourish those organs and substances in order that we can benefit their flexibility into older age.
That's right. Yes, keep them flexible and all the rest of it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So they're the main teaching. There are also some other things that can happen. I mean, we could easily do a 5-week records just on this one topic, couldn't we?
Yeah.
And we are going to look at each of these in more detail. I mean, we've got yin yang and blood deficiency. That's what tends to happen as a result of kidney deficiency. Yeah. But don't forget, though, and I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail in the practical session, is that it's not all about deficiency at all, is it? When you think about third age, you've got a lot of stored up life experiences that can cause stagnation.
And that's, you all know it. It's so common, isn't it?
Yeah.
The stuck joints, basically liver's key stagnation is a really strong pattern, often in older people.
It is, it is.
And
treating
held emotion.
Absolutely, held emotion, which often will be held for decades, before they come into Shiatsu. Unless they've been coming regularly, like a lot of our clients have since they were 30, and then we managed to get moving earlier on. But seriously, though, I've had lots of experiences of clients coming even in their 80s, and you can make substantial changes to that whole quality of life. And then you've got the lung and large intestine, the metal element, very important, really, isn't it? Because the whole autumn thing, the sense of value, the breathing.
Yes, and it's a lot of people carry unresolved grief and sadness from long lives.
Yes.
But again, we've got a holding thing. Quite often things like arthritis, you'll find liver and large intestine common in the diagnosis, you know?
Right, yes, sure.
And of course, that list that's got kidneys and liver and lungs could include stomach and
spleen, of course,
and,
yeah, all of
and
them.
heart and small intestine, you know, the fire element as well. All of them are relevant.
Sure.
But we just thought that actually with older people, you often get issues in those areas in particular.
And we'll be looking at all the spiritual aspects anyway, won't we? You know, when we do the virtues and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so how confident do you feel? And this is really going to help us in terms of pitching the next 4 sessions in this series of webinars. We thought we'd just run this poll and just find out how confident you are in your TCM or Chinese medicine knowledge related to the third age. Do you feel very confident, neutral, unconfident, or very unconfident? And that will give us an idea of how to pitch some of the theory. We are going to put a lot of extra resources in on the online course as well. So it's going to broaden it out from the live sessions. So there's a mixture of 5 live sessions. This is the first one. It's a free one to start with. And then we can build the resources. Obviously, we're going to get questions and in the community as well that we can use to guide the whole session. So let's have a look. Oh, look, we've got pretty much perfect bell curve there. That's just like a perfect curve. So it's exactly pretty much half and half. Look at that. It's almost a perfect distribution curve. We've got exactly the same number of people who are unconfident as confident. Mm-hmm. So that's very interesting, isn't it? Look.
30 neutral.
Yeah.
24, 27.
Yeah. So there's quite a lot of scope there for increasing your confidence in it. And I just have to say, it's very useful to have that knowledge really when you start working with people. Which brings us on.
It is. It's. I think it's a really helpful hat to be able to put on. Your Chinese medicine hat.
Yes.
To get an insight into held patterns over a long period of time, and to know that it helps you with recommendations, with points, with but with prognosis. With a long-term kidney deficient pattern, it's not going to change quickly.
That's true.
But,
it gives you a lot of confidence.
It does. But you also know that stagnation that's affecting a joint, for example, you're more likely to get movement. And even if it's a long-held physical stagnation, you're more likely to get movement than you are to move lift the deficiency, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, yeah. Although I have to say there are special considerations as well in the touch, which we'll come into later
that's
on.
One of the things
I always like to have a new model, and I've got one coming up just in a moment.
Yes, you're excited.
I am excited about that. So here we go. We've got spirits and virtues. This is a special subject actually of yours, Diana. You might modestly want to not sit, but I know you got it captured, didn't you?
I did, yes. Yeah. But it is, and we just put one word in there because it's a table, but it's a more esoteric bit of old Chinese medicine where each of the yin organs is associated with something called a virtue, and I won't go into detail, but I have found it very enriching to know them, and this relates more to the elderly than just people at the gateway of change, but not entirely. It actually, overall, basically what I wanted to say was I found that as people get older, as you say, maybe they've got more time, maybe they're aware of this is the later stage of their life. They've been young, they've been active, they've been working, they've raised families, the families have gone, now it's back to them. Them in the world. And them, and actually physical decline, they know, the dentist, the hair, the ears, whatever, all of those things that go with kidney deficiency. I'm not as young as I was, and less energy, all of those things. So the spiritual aspect of life often rears its head.
It becomes more central, doesn't it?
Exactly, becomes more central. And I think it's, and again...
And I think that must be why, that's one slide we don't have from that original webinar, which we probably, we ought to put that in next week. That's the smile graph, which actually is life satisfaction. Life satisfaction actually troughs at the age of 40, and it goes up from that age upwards. And actually, statistically, you're more likely to have a higher life satisfaction as you go into your third age. And when you say that you've got to balance against some of the physical things, it has to be that kind of spiritual aspect that balances that out.
And that things like enjoying your grandchildren without the burden of worry about how to support them or whatever. There are lots of life enriching aspects of age, and more time to enjoy nature, to Anyway, I think that it's a really valuable addition to the quality of our touch. It's to have a really clear sense of the relationship of the spiritual level to the physical.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think that's really important. Okay, so that's something we're going to go into detail in the 5th webinar. In fact, we're going to devote most of the 5th webinar to that. And I just wondered how confident you feel about that material. You're going to do a little meditation later, aren't you? But it might be new to you. I thought we'd run this on the poll again. This will help us plan, especially the final session. Let's just have a look. The 5th webinar. Let's just see, how confident are you in your knowledge of the virtues? Let's have a look.
Great.
Yeah, we're going to slightly more skewed curve there down towards the unconfident. You see, they're not quite so. It's not something that gets taught very much in school, is it? It's more of an advanced training thing. Yeah.
And it's not essential.
No, but I think it becomes more essential the closer you get to.
For me, it's very precious. Yes, I found it, and especially with palliative care clients or people near the end of their lives, whatever, or very elderly, then I've a lot of, but even actually just at these gateways of change.
Gateways of change, what's the life path? That's the thing, isn't it? And how are you going to express that?
And one of the things, I'll talk about the Shen in a moment, but one of the things about menopause that I think is really helpful is, we didn't talk about this, Cliff, and we did in our elderly webinar, the cultural factors involved in aging.
Yes.
And how in the West, youth is all.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you tend to be less valued.
Yes.
And the menopausal woman famously invisible, etc. And in the East, that's the other way around. Older people are valued. They're seen as a repository of wisdom and experience and all of that. So, what was I saying? Just that it's things like your self-esteem as an older person, or as a menopaused person, whatever.
Yes.
Self-esteem, sense of self, and sometimes when fire element, and we're just going to look at the Shen, but as that's for a menopausal woman, who am I in the world? My emotional core. Who am I in the world now? I'm over the hill. Now I'm menopaused, for this stage of my life.
Absolutely.
When people's central role has been in relationship, in a family, but then that family is now, their fertility is over.
Yeah.
So they start to, and quite often I find myself encouraging people, now is your time to be creative in other ways.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like to dance your dance.
Yes. Yeah.
So to express yourself, singing or writing or painting or being in nature or those things where you start to enrich your life as an older person. Now you haven't got the constraints of work or family or demands from others. So who am I?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. And central to that is, of course, the Shen, isn't it? It's your consciousness, the quality of your consciousness. So,
yes, and so this slide, just check that there's nobody shouting to us. We've got loads of information.
Yeah, Kat's very busy on the chat. Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, we'll have to look later. Yeah. So I just wanted to say a little bit, and we'll keep it short, but for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, there are two Shens. There is sometimes called the Big Shen or the Universal Shen.
Yeah.
It's like the oneness, the divine, if you like. And within, and Giovanni Maccioccia is quite interesting because he prefers to, it's usually translated as spirit, but also as mind.
Or consciousness, mind
consciousness, exactly.
Yeah.
And what Giovanni does is he keeps it very separate, and he calls the Big Shen spirit,
right,
but the Shen of the heart mind.
Right, okay, that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
And in a way that's quite helpful.
Yeah.
But the point about the Universal Shen, the Big Shen, is that it encompasses all 5 forms of spirit.
Right, okay.
Each one of which housed in a yin organ.
Yes.
So the lungs house the Po and so on.
Yeah.
And so if you go back to your slide, we've got the Big Shen, which is the whole complex, and it's what differentiates us from animals, if you like.
Yes.
Or that's according to the Chinese understanding.
Yes.
So it's our connection to the divine, to the higher self, outside space and time. The oneness outside space and time.
Yes.
And the Shen of the heart, so it's a homophone actually of the Big Shen. But
it's a what? What's that word?
It means it sounds the same, but
the radical's
not quite.
I see. Yes, it sounds the same, but it's not written the same then.
Not quite. Almost.
Yeah. Okay.
But one part of the radical is actually about extending and looking out. And if you think of your Masanaga theory, the emotional core.
Yeah.
Which is said to radiate love and compassion out into the world.
Yeah.
That's the nature of it.
Right.
But the Shen of the heart is about bringing the connection to the divine into the physical body.
Right, okay.
So, and it's rooted in the heart's blood, as you know.
Yes.
And
so the blood is the physical thing that roots it down, the Shen. Yeah.
And it's associated with consciousness, awareness, perception. Yeah. And in terms of the hierarchy of government, it's often described as the emperor. Yes. And like the emperor in government, it's the link between the heavens and the people, the earth.
Right. Yeah.
So it mediates. And it brings that divine spark down into the physical body.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So this Shen, if you like, is outside space and time, but the heart Shen is very much in space and time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like our incarnated Shen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I guess is, again, something that resonates spiritually as you get older. You become more aware of that in a way, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you give me my slide back. So it's rooted in the blood. And the Chinese highly value a calm mind, a spacious mind, a mind that is clear of attachment.
You see, that's another cultural thing, isn't it? Because in the West, we talk to strive, to always be busy, to have a busy mind and achieve and do this. It's exactly the opposite.
Yeah. So it's still, quiet mind.
Quiet, yes.
And a spacious, calm awareness, like blue sky, peaceful. Yeah. Is what we're cultivating with.
Absolutely,
And it needs to be rooted in the blood. And as when we look at more of the TCM next week, blood is not just red stuff in the veins.
No.
It's nourishing the cells, but it also has this psychological component, which is about how kind we can be to ourselves.
Well, that's a big one, being kind to yourself.
And when you start thinking about people getting older.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And transition,
change. So being kind to yourself. And in order for the Shen to settle, the heart Shen mind to settle, it needs to be well nourished.
Yeah.
And blood deficiency is really common in later life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially among women, and I'll talk about that later. But
yeah, sure.
And so when the mind is settled and calm and at ease and rooted in the blood, then there's that expansive quality where we radiate love and compassion out into the world.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, and mind, we're looking for clarity.
Yes.
And space and calm of the mind.
Yeah.
And the propriety and rights in that list.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Okay, that is the virtue of the heart.
That's the virtue.
Said to be the virtue of the heart.
Oh, okay.
Is propriety. And I just...
What does propriety mean? Just for
it means appropriate behaviour.
Right, okay, just for any non-English speakers out there, or people like me that don't know the meaning of big words.
Very big.
No,
it's appropriate.
Appropriate
behaviour.
Appropriate behaviour. Yeah.
And so basically, when the mind is calm and the heart is settled,
yes,
then because heart is also all about relationships.
Yes.
So it allows you to relate appropriately, to interact with others appropriately. Remember, it's also about speech, to speak appropriately.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, there is a cultural overlap here with Confucianism, actually, and what's morally acceptable behaviour and so on.
Yeah, sure.
But without going into detail there.
But I think we've all seen that. I mean, we've all seen that clinically, where we have clients with Shen disturbance. They just find themselves blurting out the wrong thing, and then that, of course, that disrupts the whole social environment around them. It becomes a feeding thing where they can't quite settle them in themselves. That's the kind of thing that happens, isn't it?
And actually, one of the functions of the consciousness, perception, awareness of the mind. Yeah. I'm just thinking of leaving the propriety for a moment, but just thinking about older people. Yeah. Memory is also associated. Ideation and memory is also associated with the heart. And remember, I was saying this to you the other day. Different aspects of memory. Yeah, different organs have different aspects. They do, and one of the things that I'm sure you will have noticed in your practice is as people get very old, they often have completely vivid memories of childhood. Yeah. Can't remember why they've come upstairs or what they went in the kitchen for or what day of the week. That's happening to me already sometimes. That's a kidney thing. That's a gene deficiency. Yeah, sure. But the heart memory is more associated with those early life experiences. And as we get near the end of the life, we start getting this bigger picture. Brilliant. Okay, so propriety, appropriate behaviour, and rites and ritual and ceremony. And I think that's something quite, one of the joys of Shiatsu is there's a kind of ceremonial quality. There definitely is a ceremony like to it. Ritual. Absolutely, yeah. Quite helpful for our clients. Excellent. So I think it's time for the meditation now. Yes, let's do a little appropriate in Hugh's view. Yes, sometimes you get older, you give yourself the freedom to challenge conventions. Yes. True, and like I said, Cynthia, there's a cultural overlap because in Confucianism, it's very much about what was socially acceptable at that time and place and so on. But just so that you get a feeling of, in order to maintain easeful and positive relations, it's about relationships, so appropriate in terms of that. Okay, I'm going to get off camera and we just do the meditation. We'll just do very briefly run through a short meditation, tuning into the heart. So you might just want to, in fact, I've got to just have a little shake out and a stretch. And you don't have to look at the screen for this, I'll talk you through. So just sitting cross-legged or in seiza, doesn't matter. And we'll just briefly tune into the heart on 4 levels and connect with the divine, with the spirit. So we'll start by just checking in with your alignment. Let your head float. And let your sacrum sink. Really relax your hips and knees and ankles and feet down to the earth. And breathe down into your belly. And breathe out, sink your ki down. Here we are on the earth, supported by the earth. and the head floats up. Make space at the base of the skull, crown lifted. Feel your connection up to the skies above, that golden thread up to the heavens. And breathing in ki from high above and around you down into your hara. Breathe out, relax. Open the shoulder girdle, relax elbows, wrists and fingers. Feel your rib cage move as you breathe. Breathe heaven's ki in from high above and around. Breathe out, connect to earth. And smile. And now we're going to connect with the heart on a physical level. So you can place your hands, if you like, on the center of your chest and picture your beating heart. Maybe you can feel that heart beating. And imagine it sending out the blood to nourish every cell of your body. The yin and the yang of the pumping of the heart, nourishing. And remember that psychological aspect of the blood as well. It's nourishing every cell and it's helping you feel relaxed. It's moistening, relaxing, nourishing, making you feel at ease. And just relax your hands down and notice how you feel. Heart at ease, physical blood. Then you might want to open your eyes and just move a little. Let your head float, let your sacrum sink. And now we're going to tune into the heart on an emotional level. So just shift, using your mindset to shift the vibrational level. Just tune into yourself on an emotional level. How does it feel to be you? What's your relationship like with yourself today? What's it like to be you in the world today? Here, in this webinar, in your space. And now be aware of that emotional connection out, the power of the heart to radiate love and compassion out into the world in relation to others. And just notice how that feels. Sometimes I say my name, that can be helpful. So here's Dinah, in relation to myself and radiating love and compassion out into the world. Just think of your name, your emotional core. And let that go, have a little wriggle. And now tuning into the mind. Now this is an entertaining activity because we're going to use our consciousness to tune into our consciousness. And again, use your mindset to just shift your awareness up to the mind level, the psychological level, thinking of awareness and perception. And this is about clarity of mind. That blue sky, spacious awareness, presence, here in the present, here on the earth, in the moment. It's very much in space and time. Fully aware of every cell in your body, aware of every sense that you have. Conscious awareness, perception. How does that feel? Just be interested. And compare it with the emotional level and physical level. And then let that go. Re-release the neck, let the head float, sacrum sink. And now we're expanding our awareness out onto the spiritual level. And here we're tuning in to the shell of the heart, shining out bright and connecting. This is your connection to your higher self, to the divine, to the big Shen, the universal Shen. You just get a sense of that divine spark connection from the oneness. Here you are a drop of the divine here in this physical form. And just notice how that feels. Lovely. And then bring that to a close. Come back to your heart. Have a little shake. Have a little move. And see how you feel now. So when we're aligned and open and relaxed and collecting on all the levels, then hopefully we can behave appropriately.
But also I think it's very important to know that you can bring that quality into the touch, and that's what we're going to be looking at next thing. Yeah,
that's exactly right.
So of course we all know that Shiatsu is brilliant and it's a great form of non-verbal communication, and also of course it connects with the divine. Bringing that quality in can bring
exactly
that connection
why I wanted that sense, because you've got one of the things we said before, older people often don't get enough touch.
That's true, yeah.
Especially the elderly.
Yeah.
And as you say, it's the gift of non-verbal communication, the gift of Shiatsu, and that ability to connect through the physical out to the spiritual level. And to lift your spirits.
So anyway, I started thinking of trying to get a model. I wanted a new model. So I thought, this is what diagram I came up with. And I just really feel, especially in the third age, that every Shiatsu, every moment is so important. So we've got the moment of the treatment there. We've got the client represented by the link between the spiritual and the physical. We've got the client's past there, which is kind of longer than the client's future. That's so you've got the idea of the whole length of the lifespan. And I thought we'd start off with that. And then I started thinking about exactly what we were talking about before, about deficiency and obstruction, and how, in my experience working with clients, it's so important to just get that balance right, because you can get some really amazing results in terms of moving stagnation, increasing flexibility, if you get the balance right. And the important thing, I think, is to make sure that we keep some of the tonification quality even when we're moving the stagnation. So this is the idea: is we're the therapists. We're in this this is the quality of touch. The therapist is the big grey over the top, where we've got our own spiritual and physical connection, just like in meditation. We open up the temporal stage, and this is more advanced technique. I like to investigate this a little bit later in the series. Opening up the temporal space of the touch, so that we can connect the past with the present and the future. But the most important thing is when we bring that touch in, and that's the arrow going down, and we're working with an interaction between stagnation and deficiency, and that's going to vary between one client and the next. So, for example, if there's a lot of obstruction and not too much deficiency, then we're going to need more sedated techniques, but we've got to keep that quality of that tonification in the touch. And then you get another client whose deficiency is much more dominant, where they're just not really blocking at all. And then obviously then the tonification has to be the most dominant thing in the touch. We talked about liver 3, didn't we? That's a perfect example, because that point both tonifies the liver blood, but it also moves liver keystone connection. So it has both those qualities in it. So I thought now, what we do before we do the review is I do a little demo based on that. If you don't mind having some Shiatsu, Dinah, I'm sure you won't mind.
Let's just check if there's any question.
I'm just going to bring the camera up so we've got a bit more.
See.
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
okay. We'll do
checking.
questions
Yeah.
later.
Just making sure they're happy.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 4 questions so far, so we're going to leave a bit of time at the end for the question and answer session.
Where I've got to be.
That's it. Just make yourself comfy. That's my client.
Is that okay? Am I
Yeah, you
on
might want to
screen?
come a little bit closer to the camera because then I'll come around this side. That's it. Look at that. Brilliant.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
I've got both feet.
Yeah, both feet are fully in. Let's just see how we, yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring the camera down slightly. Just keep, okay, that's it. Hey, there we are. We're perfect. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've lost a foot, but never mind.
Yeah. Okay, so I was just thinking, basically, when we're working with obstruction and deficiency, there's 2 ways of doing it. Essentially, you can either do it through the Kyojitsu meridians, but the other more interesting thing for me is when we're actually working and we're bringing both qualities of touch into one place when we're working, one meridian. You see what I mean?
Yes, exactly. And I was thinking about it actually because we were planning on this. And when I was working today, and I had somebody quite deficient but with some blockage.
Yes.
And I wasn't particularly doing a fancy technique or anything, but I'm realizing that the quality of touch is containing both that nourished support feeling as well as needing to move something.
That's it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Very interesting.
And I think that's really, really important once we start getting like deficiencies underlying the obstruction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is really common with older people.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. So I was just thinking, like, we can do.
I'm older, by the way.
We both qualified. We both qualified for the 3rd age, however you define it. I think. So I'm just going to do like an illustration of a technique, and then maybe I'll find an actual meridian I can actually work that has those qualities in them. Okay, so say for example you've got like more obstruction in the liver channel and you've got more deficiency in the kidney channel, which is a very common pattern. And we're going to do a hip rotation. Again, it depends a lot on the client whether that's appropriate or not, you know. But assuming it is, and we're doing a hip rotation, then what we can do is we can balance out the hip in terms of obstruction and deficiency by balancing out the rotation aspect, which is more moving, and then tonifying through the bladder and kidney channels. Okay, so here I'm moving my mother hand here down, by the way, onto Dinah's hip here, so that I can actually sort of kind of hear, so that I can tune into her hip. Okay, and then what I'll do then is tune deep inside the hip, feel out how much obstruction there is compared to the deficiency and the feeling of the whole joint, and then balance out the tonification with something like this. Yeah,
lovely.
Yeah, so I'm doing deep penetration. I'm holding the points and I'm using my knee just to come. This is like a Masanaga technique. I'm holding the technique and I'm using lots of ki projection right into the channel, and I'm directing it down into the hip. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, and it feels to me as though it's more on the deficient side.
Yeah, what this channel is.
Yeah.
Yes, it definitely is from the hara. That just
Yeah.
palpated. Okay, and then we've got kidney.
Yeah, feels great.
Yeah. And then if we wanted to move it, we could either do rotating like this, or we could actually literally do some tonification along the gallbladder channel. And here I am just working along the gallbladder channel. Like this.
Oh, moved my
Move digestion. Then do you hear that rumbling? Yeah.
expander.
Yeah. Okay, but more. So that's the kind of basic way that we can do it. Just real simple stuff like that. But also, what I've been experimenting with, just like you were today, is bringing both the qualities of the tonification and sedation into the touch.
Yeah.
So say, for example, we were working the liver meridian here, okay, and I wanted to tonify and
Support.
And support. Yeah, I'm just going to do it this way because it's kind of a good camera angle here like this. Yeah, so basically even just using one hand, right, then you can feel, I can feel along here, like, say there's an obstruction in the channel there, which there is, okay, kind of there, okay. If I was using more sedation, I'd be doing more like this kind of stuff, like that, you see, just to move it, okay. However, if there's a deficiency underneath it, what I can do then is go more into the hara, more key projection, shift it, but put that tonifying touch.
Oh,
you see what I mean?
Very nice.
Yeah. So it's got that quality of that depth. It's got the quality
still
of depth.
moving, but it's got
it's got depth.
nourishy quality.
Yes, exactly.
Lovely.
Yes. See? And then if I go to somewhere that's more deficient, like there, then I can switch more to tonification. See?
Yeah.
I mean, this is just using one hand actually, but I can put my hand in. And you can probably see that actually on the video. Like I go down along, I can find there's another tight bit there on the channel where my thumb is. Okay, and look, moving it, but bringing in the tonification underneath
nourishing it.
Underneath
I like it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bit like you do with the levels as well. So you're using it with tonification, sedation.
Yeah.
But in a sense, and this is partly as an older practitioner, because you've got more life experience or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that the touch can connect with the physical body at the same time as the spiritual level. Of course,
opening it up,
and I think part of our life experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you as a person are transmitted through your touch, aren't
Absolutely,
you?
yeah. And that's what I tried to get through in this diagram here.
Yeah.
The fact that you're at that moment of treatment, your alignment connects with the spiritual and physical. Yeah. It connects with the client's overlap between the future and the past and the future. And it opens up that temporal and vibrational space.
Yeah.
And then within that space, just like I demonstrated, you see, what I did with that demonstration was I showed how you can change the touch, go right in there and balance out deficiency circulation in the same spatial location.
Yeah.
Because when we're in school, we tend to separate it out. I'm sedating, I'm tonifying, and all the rest of it. And so I think that's just something I'd really like to work on a little bit more.
Oh, look, someone loved your diagram, Cliff.
Oh, I do like a nice diagram. Okay, so actually, I think it's time for review and then questions.
Already, and we haven't got time for liver 3 today, but you all know liver 3.
You get the idea. That's just an illustration of the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done an introduction, just a brief introduction. We looked at the Chinese medicine theory. We had a brief look at the 5 forms of spirit, give you an idea, an overview of that, although there's obviously a lot of scope to that because not that many people are confident in that. And we did meditation on the Shen. That's the Shen bit there, that lovely meditation. That was really good. I feel a lot calmer, Dinah.
Did you like it?
Yes, it's very good, yeah. It's amazing how the physical aspect is such a calming influence on the whole body, doesn't it? That's the blood.
Lovely
blood.
Lovely blood.
And then we've got practical application. I just did a very short demo of this new conceptual idea of tonifying and sedating at the same time and balancing out. The important thing is to get the balance just right.
That's it.
Yeah. And then I'm going to have a look at the course overview and everything in a minute. That's going to be in a minute. But we've got time for some question and answers. So let's have a quick look. Yeah. Let's have a quick look and see what we've got. Get closer to the screen.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh my goodness, we've got 6. Let's see what we've got. Right. Okay. So we've got Doreen. Right.
Quality of diagram touch again. Quality of diagram.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Here we go. Doreen says, is it possible to pay attention to single people without children and obviously without grandchildren? Thank you. Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Completely.
Totally. Yeah. Okay, so
there's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. There's going to be more and more with some people not choosing to have children. I'd be interested to know how many practitioners in this webinar are in the 3rd age and interested not only in relation to our clients but to ourselves.
As a matter of fact, I was going to suggest that to you. I thought it'd be interesting to find out because, of course, Cliff and I have both been working for 30-something years.
Of 41. I have
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
41 years. So
I think I started in 85, but anyway, but it's a very long time. And a lot of our clients have been coming for 30 something years. So
we have. A lot of my clients are reaching their 80s now. I'm going through a period where they're all reaching their 80s.
I've got a whole load of oldies, and so it becomes significant. But yes, that'd be interesting.
All right. In the Western cultural phrase, growing old disgracefully, the opposite of kidney virtue, proprietary, it seems at first glance to be an empowerment to break social constraints and live. But you know what? I think that happens. Liver key stagnation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You get stagnated. You get too much constriction in your life, so you just want to do whatever.
Yeah. And I would just point out that the kidney virtue is wisdom. It's the heart's virtue that's propriety. But that's, like I said, it links to Chinese culture. So don't worry about it.
Tina said, I missed last week. Is there any way to watch it? Yes, there is. Yes, absolutely. It's on YouTube. For the teacher training. Yeah, we can get in touch with that. But that's next year. We're going to be doing the teacher training. Yeah. Okay, can we see the quality of touch diagram again? I did. I showed it again, actually. We went back to it. So I was right. Fran, I knew what you were going to ask. I knew you were going to ask that.
And you'll have it.
All right. Okay. So here we are. Kim was saying, I don't quite understand the difference between a tonification touch and a sedation touch. Okay. Right. So a lot of it is. I'll put the. A lot of it is to do with the technique, the way that you project your key, and also your intention as well. So if you just take your hand like this, right, and work your hand like this, and try and free it up as much as possible. If you wanted to free your hand up as much as possible, what would you do? You'd probably work a little bit quicker. You'd squeeze it. You'd try and get everything loose, okay? All right? And that's the kind of thing that you do when you're working with sedating or moving the chi. Okay, so now you know this point here, palace of anxiety. This point is used to calm the mind. So now we're going to tonify it. We're going to tonify that point and we're going to calm the mind. What are we going to do? Well, we probably won't do this kind of thing. We'll probably hold it, project our key deep into the point and kind of support the point. And now I can feel like a warmth going up inside my arm, a bit like Dinah felt when I was working her bladder channel. So that's the difference. The sedation work, you tend to get things moving. You want the chi to move, any structures to move. Tonification, you want to strengthen it up. And that's the difference. Okay, so here we go. I think we've got 8 minutes left. Are there any more questions? Let's have a look. Okay, here we go. Oh yes, we've got another one here from Tina here. I have several older clients unable for me to move them into positions, and a client I work on a bed with lots of pillow props. Yes, just on how to these ideas and techniques. Yeah, absolutely. We could maybe do that next week.
Yeah,
Tina, why can't we?
And the truth is, adapt.
Absolutely,
And so much of it, and Tina, you know this really. So much of this is mindset. Yeah, and you don't have to be doing very much if you've got it in. If your intention is there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you can get at whatever bits you can get at.
That's right.
I use side position a lot.
Yeah.
When people are old and they're stiff and so on, I don't want them on their fronts, and I don't use body cushions. I know I could, but side position is great. But you just adapt. They can maybe only lie on one side because one side's hurty or whatever it is. You just adapt, and you can do it, Tina. Do whatever you can.
But we can also share some techniques, can't we? Next week when we do some of the points.
Some of the
I find I use quite a lot of points as well, and a lot of mindset things like that. But absolutely right. Sometimes you don't really want to be moving them about.
No, and you're not going to do rotating hips if they're ancient and frail and whatever.
No,
you can move key through a stuck hip without moving the hip.
Absolutely can. Yeah, exactly. Using points, gallbladder 34, and so on. So rapid work sedates moving obstruction. Yep, that's it. You're getting the idea, Kim. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it tends to be more sedating if you do quicker work, but a lot of it's mindset and monitoring what happens.
And it really is intention as well.
It is.
You know that you want movement. I want movement. So you might use rotations and stretches. You might work more quickly. You're looking to move, to create movement, as opposed to you're looking to nourish. You're looking to support. You're looking to hold.
That's it. Yes, exactly.
A lot of it is just your intention.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, of course, when you've got something like the liver, is that the liver blood, again, and the liver yin is the bit that keeps everything fluid and all the rest of it. So When you're actually moving a joint, say, for example, particularly if you're working on an older client, that's why you need that nourishment in the technique, because you want to nourish the blood and the yin that's underneath the obstruction.
And actually, 90% of the time, well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but an awful lot of the time, some liver blood deficiency is alongside liver key stagnation. Liver is a bit out, and you'll get both.
Yes.
Okay, you can get stagnation on its own, but so often it's a
I think
especially in older people.
Well, especially it's a chronic thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a chronic thing because you get deficient, as we said before, one thing that happens is you get deficiency of yin and blood and all the rest of it, don't you? Whereas if you get a younger person who's just like really angry for 5 minutes because something annoying has happened, then you're going to get in a situation where you don't need to do that much tonification.
No, because they're just locked up in there because they want to.
That's right.
Or whatever
but they're not really tired. They're not really, they don't have that. So that's the main difference, I think, when you're talking about the third age. You just want to bring that into the touch. But I have to emphasize also that if you get the techniques right, you really should have confidence that you can make really significant changes in people's quality of life. And I've done that so many times. I can't even count the number of times when I've had literally people coming in their 70s, 80s, completely locked up maybe for decades, and maybe it would take like 6 treatments and they'll be standing differently, moving differently, you know what I mean? And the secret of it is to have the depth of penetration and the support. So it's a nourishing touch, so that it's not uncomfortable, that it's very deep, but moving at the same time.
And also to trust the Shiatsu. Because as suddenly as you said that, I remembered a client when I was really first in practice, and that is 30-something years ago. And she had a shoulder solid, couldn't brush her hair, couldn't put a coat on, and she couldn't smell.
All right.
And I was a newly graduated, remembered my theory,
well done, Diana. Well done.
And she couldn't believe it. She came back and look, I can put my coat on, I can brush my hair, and I can smell onions.
Brilliant. Oh, look at this. This is another interesting question. Look, is chair massage appropriate for the elderly? Absolutely.
Of course.
Yes,
perfect.
Everything.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. And in fact, I've got in this cupboard here, you can't see it behind the camera, I've got a massage table that I pull out if people can't get on the floor. Sometimes you get to the point where they just can't get onto the floor and stuff like that. And then
and I mean, we usually have a chair in our treatment rooms, and I've got 2 clients. I think I have to bring the chair over to help. They can get up off the floor, but with the help of the chair.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, good. So we've only got a few minutes left. So now I just want to talk about the online course a bit. It's 5 webinars. This one is free. We're going to put some extra resources in. We're going to have forum support in the community. It'd be nice to get a bit of a buzzing, forum going about this.
Yeah, because I'm dying to know. There's lots of conversation.
We can check the chat out after that. I'll send it to you. Yeah. Okay, and it's a 15 CPDC credit hours certificate course at the end of 5 weeks. We're building it up as we go. So if you log on to the course and there's only 1 week there, that's because it is only week 1. We're going to build it up. I've already put the introduction and everything in. Okay, so I would like to know what kind of member you are, because this is going to make a big difference to how you interact with the course. So are you a premium member, professional member, a free member, or not a member at all? And we'll just see where you're at, because as you probably know, we're rejigging everything in New Energy Work because we're coming out of the pandemic. We're not running on donations anymore. So about half of you are not a member or a free member. Okay. So this is how we've worked out the pricing. We love our premium and professional members, don't we? Because they make it possible. We would not be here if they weren't subscribing. So we love you guys. We love you guys. Okay. So this is how it works. So basically, if you professional premium members, just check out your dashboard. It's already there. I did it last night. I put it up. It's actually included in your membership. So you don't have to worry. It's right there. All the recordings are going to be there. All the quizzes, the certificate, and everything. If you're a free member and you'd like to pay pay a discount off the full fee, then if you just email us and we'll send you a coupon code to get 10% discount. And if you're a non-member, you can always join. That's always a good idea. But it's just 120 euros. That's all for non-members if you don't want to join up. Okay, and professional membership starts at 10 euros a month. there we are. Okay.
So can I just clarify?
Yeah, go on.
So a professional pays €10 a month.
Yeah.
But if someone wants this course, it's
Yes.
€120. So
It is,
that's a year's professional membership.
Yeah, well, that's an option, isn't it? If you
But
want
if you're a professional member,
yeah,
you've got access to loads of courses,
absolutely.
not just this one.
No, exactly. And we're going to do 3 courses a year like this. So there's going to be like €360 worth of courses. And that doesn't even count all of the legacy courses.
That's what I mean. There's loads of courses.
There's thousands of euros of legacy courses which members have access to.
Okay.
So obviously,
€10 a month.
we look after our professional premium members. Is basically the message here. We look after them because they are the ones that keep us going month by month. But if for some people don't want to join, they just want to do a course, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Okay, good, excellent. Thank you so much. I think that's it. Yeah, next week we're going to look deeper into Chinese medicine theory, syndromes of the third age. Look at that, and some essential points, locations, quality of touch again. Revisit that.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at all different types of techniques as well. Why not? You know.
Yeah.
Look at chairs
Practical.
and not moving them and all that.
No, quite a lot of practical, because I think. Well, we'll read the chat, but my sense is that there's quite a lot of TCM and Chinese medicine and theory understanding out there. So
we do a lot of practical.
So we'll do more practical.
And there we are, Dinah. It's been so much fun. Thank you so much, and thank you very much for tuning in. And thank you. Kat looks like she's had an absolutely awesome time on the chat. There we are. Yeah, that's a great question. So so we'll hopefully see you next week. All the premium members, you'll be getting an email with the links for the next 4 webinars. And if you want to join up as a member, then it'll appear on your dashboard. In the course, if you lose it, there is a link to all the 4 webinars, but we'll email that out anyway. Any questions, just email us at admin@youenergywork.com. Okay, thanks so much for your time. And it's time for us to wrap up the webinar.
Time for us to go home and nourish our blood. It's dinner time.
Okay,
Bye, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Bye.